Hi everyone, Chad here. Thank you for joining me. Our goal today is writing a method to be able to measure plates with the Avant. Plate measurements are an excellent way to be able to measure column efficiency. I already did a whole intro video about plates, so be sure to check that out. I also have a couple other videos about blocks, how to read and understand instructions, and just navigating the method editor in general. So I'll link all of those videos below, and there's probably some other videos you might find helpful if I move a little fast while we write this method. So this method will work with just about any column, more or less, and I'll kind of show you what I mean with that as we go along. But today we're actually going to write two methods. So we're going to write one method where we use a loop for the injection, and then we're going to take that method and change it around a little bit and write another method so that we do the injections with the sample pump. So our setup for this is we're going to have pretty much any kind of column. I'm mostly going to be focusing on SEC columns, but you can use shorter columns for sure. And then we're going to have 150 millimolar sodium chloride on pump A, and we're going to be injecting using 1 molar sodium chloride. We're not really going to have anything on pump B, so like water or something on pump B. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is click on the new method button up here in the upper left hand corner. And we're going to be using an Avant. So I'm just going to do this Avant right here, which is an Avant 25. And I'm going to select empty method. And I also want to get rid of this gradient view down here because this is SEC. I'm not going to be using any gradients. The first thing we need to do is select our column. So we're going to click on this first instruction right here that says base. And we can pick any column that's in here that's in the GE universe or Cytiva universe, right? I just called it GE for so long. So I'm going to select this 26x40 S200 HR. Actually, no, I'm going to do this Super Dex, the high load Super Dex 2660. And then I'm going to hit change. And then this window is going to come up. Then it's going to tell me what kinds of flow rates and pressures that I can use for my new method. And I'm just going to hit OK. So this is what's already the default value right here, and this is what it's going to automatically put in. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to get rid of as many of the variables as possible. And that's just because I want to make this method as simple as possible. So I am going to click anywhere that I see like a little hash. I'm going to click on all these variables. On all these instructions. And anywhere that I see these capitals V, A, and R all capitalized, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hit clear, and then I'm going to hit change. I'm going to hit OK. Then I'm going to hit change. And then I'm going to do that for all of these except for the system flow. All right. So I'm also going to do that for pre-column pressure. All right, now that we have the variables cleared up, there's one other thing I wanted to mention. So I'm using this high load 2660 and I picked it from this list right here. What if your column doesn't appear on this list? You can write your own column, like you can make your own column by going to Tools and then Column Handling and then select New. And then you can fill out this section right here and then click on the details and fill out this section right here. Really, the hardware diameter and bed height are the ones you really need. I have a whole video about doing this, but I'm not going to go into that right now. So let's just say this is the column that we really want. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in all the phases that I'm going to use. And in order to do that, I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to go to Phase Library, and I'm just going to use user default phases, and then I'm just going to name them. I'm going to put a bunch in here. . Okay, now that I have all my phases, I am going to make some changes to my method settings phase. The first thing I know is that for the pH valve, this method works much better when the flow restrictor is offline. So I'm going to hit change. And then I want to put the system's flow rate in a block so we can sync it later. And I'll show you what this is why we do this in the second method, but it's helpful to do this right now. And I also have a whole video about doing this. So in order to sync the method, I am going to go to other, and I'm going to click insert, and then I'm just going to take the system flow rate and I'm going to cut it and paste it in there. And then finally, the last thing I want to put in here is before I turn on the method flow rate is I'm going to do a pump wash. I'm also going to close the phase library here. So let's go to pumps. I'm going to do a pump wash. Pump wash is very important. And I'm only going to wash A1 because that's where my running buffer is. Oh, and I don't want it below the method flow rate, I want it above it. So I want to wash the system out just a little bit before I start like the column equilibration. So I am going to change the method settings phase. I'm going to click the base instruction and I'm going to change it to volume. And then now I can select the end block here and I'm just going to do 5 mils. And that just washes if there's any chance that there's any air in the system, this will just wash it out really fast. So now for column equilibration, there is no column position specified yet. So I'm going to do another column position instruction. Column position, and I'm going to do column position 1, and I'm going to label this as a variable. And then I'm going to do since this is the column equilibration, I'm going to do this end block. I'm going to change this end block so it will equilibrate the column for 1 CV. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to set this as a variable. All right, so now for the salt injection, we're going to add a flow path instruction for the injection valve. And I'm going to set it to inject, insert, and then we're going to do another instruction, which is to set it back to manual load. Insert. Okay, so it can be kind of tricky reading the Unicorn instructions. So when the Unicorn reads this instruction right here, it's going to change the column valve to inject. Then it'll read these 3 zeros right here. And once it's done, whatever time that is, then it'll read this instruction to change the valve back to manual load. So I'm actually going to change these 3 zeros right here to the amount of salt that I want to inject. And that's going to be 2% of the column volume. So that's going to be 0.02. And I'm going to do okay, and that's in percent volume right there of the column. So change. All right, now, so this is 2% column volume, and so this is a 318 mil column. That means the injection volume is going to be about 6.2, 6.4 mils. So you're going to have like 2 5 mil loops connected to each other, or you're going to have a super loop for this method to work like this. All right, now for the run phase, we just need to have the length of run there. We're going to set it to 1.5. So we want to make sure that we can observe the salt peak go up and then down. We're going to be monitoring conductivity. So we want to make sure we do way more than a whole CV. So 1.5 CVs might be a little too much, but okay. So now let's save this method just because we're in a pretty good spot. So I'm going to click this button right here for save method. I'm going to save it in the training folder. Okay, so now I'm going to work through these buttons right here at the top. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the system where I want my result files to be saved. So this is a different kind of saving. Click this. My start protocol, I'm going to just do variable list and result name and location. Okay. And then if I wanted to do scouting, I could do it right here. So we'll do scouting. I'll show you scouting when we write in just a second, when we do the method for the like loading with the sample pump. Okay, we'll do that at the end of that one. But all the other stuff I think we're done with. Okay, so if you're planning on injecting with a loop, that's it. So now if you are still here, you want to try to inject with a sample pump. And we're pretty much going to use the same method, but we're just going to make a couple little changes, so it shouldn't take us too long. All of the method settings are going to stay the same, and then the column equilibration is going to stay the same as well. Okay, where things start to change is at the salt injection. The first thing we're going to do is turn on the flow of the sample pump, but that means we have to turn off the system pump first. So I'm going to insert this instruction here. Insert. I'm also going to get rid of this injection valve from the way we were doing it before. Delete. Okay, system flow 0. So then we were going to want to set the sample inlet to the right place. So we're going to do sample inlet. We're going to change it to S1. That's where our salt is going to be. Insert. And I'm going to turn this into a variable just really fast. Okay, then I'm going to change the injection valve to direct inject. And then I'm going to turn on the sample flow. And the sample flow is going to match the system flow, which I believe is 2 mils a minute. Let's check. Insert, check the flow rate, method flow rate, 2.6. So I'm going to change this to 2.6 as well. So now, one of the things you might notice, one of the problems is that it might take a second for the flow to go to 0, depending upon how your PD parameters are set. So I like to put in a delay block right here. So that just saves us like a second or two. Just takes a second or two. So I'm going to click other. I'm going to click other right here and then block. I'm going to title this delay A. Insert, and I just want this to be a block in terms of time. So I'm going to change the base to time. And then I'm going to be using metric time here. So I'm going to do 0.05 minutes. So that's like 3 seconds. And then we'll do another delay when we turn the flow rate back up. So I'm going to insert another phase, which is going to be reset, reset system. Injection valve. I'm going to get rid of this too. Delete. Okay, where was I? Let me check my notes. Change. Okay, so that was the last little vestige of the old method. Okay, so now that I have the sample flow up and running, I'm going to change this method. This end block is going to be my injection volume. Change. All right, now I'm going to put a phase in here between salt injection and the run. So view, phase library. And in reset system, so the way I do this is I do it backwards from the way I have it written here. So I have the sample flow on, so I'm going to turn the sample flow to 0 first. So sample flow right here, flow path, pumps and pressures, sample flow, insert, and then I'm going to do injection valve. I'm going to do manual load. Insert, and then I'm going to do a delay block. So I've turned off the flow and changed the injection valve, so I don't need to worry about like extra salt bolus actually going onto the column. So that's good. I'm going to do that delay block now, and I want it to be above this end block, so I'm going to select the end block and it'll be inserted above it. Delay B, insert. Alright, so delay A, system flow is set to 0, so now I'm going to do I'm going to turn the system flow rate back on, and this is where I'm going to use the synchronized flow rate block. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to copy this, and underneath this delay block, I'm going to paste I'm going to paste the flow rate block. And what this is asking me is, do I want the block to be independent or an identical copy? And if I select no, identical copy, the block will be synchronized. And I want it to be synchronized, so I'm just going to hit no. All right. And there's my flow rate again. So we're back up and running. And that's it. So we can go back to the phase for run, and the system would finish up. All right. So now let's change this. Let's resave this method. Let's save it as, okay, so then the next thing is, let's do some scouting. Okay, so we're gonna select the start protocol, we're gonna select scouting, and this will allow us to do multiple runs at any one time. Oop, I'm gonna close the phase library. All right, so we're gonna select length of equilibration. I like to have the column position there. It just reminds me of what I'm doing. And the injection percent CV. All right, and we'll do length of run because we're doing length of equilibration. Okay, great. So I'm going to do 3 runs because it's pretty easy with the sample pump to do 3 runs in a row. And so with the first run, it's definitely important to do a column equilibration. But after that, you don't have to do a full column equilibration. So I'm going to run just a really tiny bit of the column just to kind of get things in dynamic equilibrium before I actually do the salt bolus injection. All right, that would do it for the scouting. Okay, I've tested this method. I know it works. It gives you pretty good results. Let me show you how you could change the column. So let's say you don't want to use this high load 2660, but you want to use another column inside the Cytiva universe. Let's say you want to use the same SuperDex 200, but you want to do this 16. I'm looking at Cephacryl, so we're going to do Cephacryl 200, but we want to do 1660. And I'm going to hit change. Okay, now it's going to suggest that we change the flow rate. And so this is the flow rate for the system pump and for the sample pump. And I'm going to hit OK because that's the suggested flow rate for this. If you want to double check the suggested flow rate, you can just, again, go to Tools and Column Handling, and it'll be listed in here. You just find the column. Okay, I hope that helps with your purifications. Good luck, and have a nice night. All right, so how do you do a calculation for plates after you've done a run? I'm going to show you in both the streamlined evaluation module and the classic evaluation module. Let's start with the streamlined. I have a file already pre-selected here, which I did a while ago, but still works. All right, and this is what comes up. Your view might be different, but you're gonna have some curves up here, and what you're looking for is the conductivity curve. And you need need to have the curve selection box up, and if you can't find it, you just go to View and then Curve Selection. And what you'll notice is that there's this f of x on the side, and what we have to do is we have to integrate the conductivity peak. So I am going to turn off the integration for the UV peak and turn on the integration for the conductivity peak. The other thing is I just really don't like this UV curve here. It's really noisy, and the reason it's so noisy is just because the scale is really tiny. So I'm just going to click on this. All right, and you'll notice down here, when you integrate, you get a peak table down here, and so the peak I'm interested in is the one that has the retention time of 70 mils. So right here, that's peak C, but there is no column that tells me what the plates per meter is. So what I have to do is go over here to this little gear, click on it, and select plates per meter, which is right here. And we've talked a little bit about asymmetry, so if you want to turn that on, click this asymmetry 10%. That's the one you're looking for. All right, and this is my result. I have 2,704 plates here, and I have an asymmetry of 1.41. I would say this asymmetry isn't very good, and the thing that's important about plates, just remember, is it's really dependent on your setup. You could change the setup and get a lot more plates. All right, so that's the streamlined version. Let's go look at the classic evaluation module. Okay, so we're in the classic evaluation module. The first thing we need to do is open our file, and I have mine pre-selected right here, so I'll just open it. Your view might look different than this, but the first thing is I've got some curves I don't really want to look at, so I'm just going to get rid of those. I'm going to right click and then go to Customize, and I'm just going to turn off all the curves I don't want to see. And the reason the view on each of these curves is weird is because I'm remote desktoping. So anyways, I have the conductivity curve here selected, at least I did, now I do again. And that's what I want to see, so there we go. That's just the curve itself. Now I want to integrate this curve, so I'm going to go over here to integrate and then peak integrate. And what this box on the left here, window on the left here, is saying is what curve do I want to integrate? That's conductivity. And what is the resulting peak table going to look like? Which peak table do I want? I want A. And I have integrated this curve once or twice before, and I know that it tries to integrate all these little blips right here. So what I'm going to do is reject some peaks. I'm just going to do the largest curve, the largest peak, and hit OK. And then here is the resulting curve, and it's been integrated. It's at 70 mils, and so you'll notice it's the only peak that was integrated down here, and it actually has the total number of plates per meter already shown. That's the default for this, but it doesn't have the asymmetry. So how I turn that on is right click and I hit Customize, and then I can find it down here. So I'm just going to find asymmetry, which is right here. If you don't have the plates, it's this plate height right here, HETP. I'm going to hit OK. And there you can see the asymmetry. There's the plates per meter, and then there's the HETP right there, the plate height. Okay. You'll notice I get the same number of plates more or less, and I think the reason why, let's see, this one's 2,711, and in the other version I had 2,704, and I think that's just because the retention time goes out to a few more decimal places. Okay, I hope that helps.